One thing I really underestimated when getting my first betta fish is how slow the flow needs to be for them. I don't know why this is, but a lot of those beginner-friendly all-in-one aquarium kits, which most people get for their bettas, they come with a default filter that is oftentimes way too fast for my betta. Like I would turn this thing on and the poor betta would be spinning around in the aquarium and struggling to swim against the current. And unfortunately, that ends up stressing the fish out and eventually they get sick. And this doesn't apply to just betta fish, but also things like baby fish that are way weak, maybe fancy goldfish that have very long flowy fins, really any kind of slow moving species. Now, I'm not saying this means that you should totally get rid of your filter because they have a lot of good benefits. For example, obviously they help to filter your water and remove the particles that are floating in it. That way your water looks a lot clearer. They're very good for, you do need some flow in the aquarium usually, especially at the surface of the aquarium, because more surface agitation helps with the gas exchange so that more carbon dioxide leaves the water and oxygen enters it for your fish to breathe. Plus, they're really a great source for growing beneficial bacteria, which is kind of part of the ecosystem that helps to purify the water from waste products that your fish makes and makes it safe for them to live in. However, because of all of these benefits, a lot of times people think, well, more is better, right? So you'll hear about maybe a hobbyist getting, let's say they have a 20-gallon aquarium and they'll buy a filter that's rated for 70 gallons, or maybe they'll buy multiple filters just for one aquarium when it's not necessarily needed. Plus, like I mentioned before, a lot of these all-in-one aquarium kits come with, let's say, an internal filter or a hang-on back filter, and sometimes the flow can just be way too strong for the fish that you're trying to keep. So bottom line, don't get rid of your filter, but if you do see your fish struggling to kind of even stay in one place, maybe think about changing up your filtration options to get something that's more accommodating to their needs. One of our favorite filters with gentle flow would be the sponge filter. The foam on the outside of it not only serves to filter out particles from the water, but also it's really good for preventing baby fish, shrimp, your betta's fins from getting sucked up into the filter. Plus the bubbles that come out of the sponge filter up the top, once they pop at the surface, that causes that surface agitation that we want, which will increase the amount of oxygen in the water. I personally like using the Aquariumcoop air pump to drive air into the sponge filter because it has that button that allows you to adjust the amount of airflow. So you could really crank it down, lessen the amount of air going into the sponge filter, which will then lessen the amount of current in the aquarium. Plus, the nice thing about the Aquariumcoop air pump is that it does have a rechargeable backup battery system in case your power ever goes down, so that you'll always have enough air going into the tank and your fish won't run out of oxygen. However, if you already have an air pump that you own, you really like it, but it doesn't have an adjustable knob of any type, what you can do is the air pump has airline tubing that goes to the sponge filter. Just cut that in half and then insert an air valve in between. The air valve has a little dial that you can adjust, and that will help you also control the amount of air going into the aquarium. Now, if you have another type of filter that you're using that's not a sponge filter, so something like an internal filter, hang-on back, maybe a canister filter, some of these models often have an adjustable knob or switch, which will also help you control the amount of flow going into the aquarium. So really try to crank it down as much as possible and give it a shot, and hopefully the current will be less in the aquarium. Let's say you already have a filter, you're not in a place where you can buy a new one. In that case, we're gonna focus on, well, some people say, okay, then I want to try to maybe block the amount of water that goes into the filter. We don't want to do that because you may run into a problem of burning out the motor if it's not able to intake the amount of water it's expecting. However, what we can do instead is to baffle or block or redirect the water that flows out of the filter so that it greatly reduces the water pressure. For example, if you have a canister filter, an internal filter, or some kind of filter that has an output kind of spout or tube, what we can do is aim that tube so it's either pointing at the surface of the water or maybe toward a back wall. And that way, when the water comes out of the output tube, it's kind of bouncing off of the surface or the back wall. And when it does that, it loses some kinetic energy and therefore lessens the amount of water pressure. In fact, some canister or internal filters actually come with a spray bar, or we have a video over here where you can make your own DIY spray bar. But basically the idea is water comes out of the output tube and then it goes into a spray bar that has lots of little holes, which further disperses the water throughout the tube as it sprays out. That will help lessen the amount of energy since it's not just coming through one hole, but it's coming through many. And then if you want to lessen the flow even more, aim that spray bar toward the back wall and then it will bounce off and lose even more energy. And that's going to, again, slow your flow even more. Another idea is to put a pre-filter sponge so that it covers the output tube. So in this case, we generally want something that's a little bit coarser so that water can still easily flow into the aquarium. However, since it's going through that pre-filter sponge, it's going to help knock off some of that kinetic energy. Now, if you find that the flow coming out of the filter is so strong that it keeps knocking off the pre-filter sponge, what you can do is aim at the output tube so that the pre-filter sponge is kind of propped up against one of the walls of the tank or a really sturdy aquarium decoration, and that will kind of affix it into place. Now for hang-on back filters, they don't have an output tube or spout, and so instead the water comes out of the filter in kind of a waterfall fashion. And there are several DIY baffle methods that you can use to slow the flow while making sure you still at least have a little bit of surface agitation. For example, you can cut out a block of sponge and then make sure it's the width of the waterfall opening and then just kind of stuff it into the waterfall opening so that the water has to pass through this foamy material before it enters the water. Now you want to make sure that the foam material is coarse enough so that you don't block the water from coming out. So try our coarse sponge pad in that case. Another similar idea is to get craft mesh. It's like this plastic craft mesh that you can get from craft stores like Joann's or Michael's, depending on where you live. And in that case, you want to attach it, hopefully using string or zip ties across the opening of the waterfall. Again, when the water passes through it, it should dissipate nicely and then hopefully slow the flow a little. Finally, if you want a really natural looking solution, get a bunch of live plants, maybe some tall decorations or a tall piece of driftwood or piece of rock, and put it right underneath the waterfall so that as it's falling out, it has to hit that object first, and that will help dissipate it a little bit. And then don't forget, the more decorations, items, live plants, as we always recommend, the more of those you have in the aquarium, that is also going to help slow down the flow, because every time the water current hits an obstacle, it slows down even more, has to meander around it. Depending on your setup, you may be able to combine several of these methods to create a really slow flow aquarium that will give your betta fish or other fish the stress-free environment they need. And then your betta will be really happy with you, so yay. Now, if you want a super easy but super amazing looking planted aquarium to spoil your betta, make sure to check out this simple aquascaping tutorial by Lizzie, where she shows you, well, she's using a sponge filter in that setup as well. So I'll give you some ideas on how to hide it behind some items. Enjoy Nature Daily, and I'll see you next time.